Just Answering Questions with Waptic is a series of videos I do where people are just asking questions. And what they're doing is they're making assertions and kind of teasing people out to get reactions out of them. Or they're, quote unquote, informing the public. But they do a disingenuous thing of saying, I'm just asking questions when they're making assertions. Because if you say, I'm just asking questions, well, I don't have to prove what I've said. And that's kind of the reason it's named that, Just Answering Questions, is I answer your questions for you and throw it in your face that you may not like me putting up a video that may or may not trend, that may or may not have happened recently. Warning, if somebody's sharing stuff on websites that YouTube doesn't like, they won't let your page rank go up. They won't let your YouTube video become popular. It won't show anything on our end. Just like they can hide dislikes, they can hide views if it's on websites or from certain countries. Joseph Alsop, American syndicated columnist in the 1950s, went to the Philippines to cover the election in 1953 at the request of the CIA. This is a claim by CARL BERNSTEIN in a 1977 Rolling Stone cover story that was mostly about the Church Committee covering up how American mainstream media worked along with the CIA during the Cold War years. If you're not aware of it, that's something that we all pretty much understand happened. And yeah, that's bad. That's also an example when it was done to affect our opinion. It's an example of what they're not supposed to do. The Red Scare is what we're talking about here. The CIA and the Media by CARL BERNSTEIN, 1977 in Rolling Stone. This is an example of something we can go double check, see if he made any mistakes, and he might have even done a follow-up later where he said he made mistakes. Now let's compare it to something I did a video on. Someone decided to come along and just ask a question, which means they were making an assertion and saying, oh, this video you made that's on a completely unrelated subject, it's all about Operation Mockingbird, because they used Operation Mockingbird. Excuse me, I have to use the wrong words. Operation Mockingbird never existed. It's a crypto-nym created by Deborah Davis for her book, Katharine the Great, Katharine Graham, and the Washington Post as an Empire. It was a hit piece against the Washington Post, Katharine Graham, done in the guise of doing a biography or whatever. It was a myth invented by renaming a single incident over a period of 1 or maybe 2 years, I think it is actually 1 year now, in 1963, called Project Mockingbird, that only affected 2 people. They were journalists, and they were getting wiretapped because they did a set of stories, or a couple of stories, one each, or don't know, that had content in it that made the CIA absolutely understand that they probably got that information from a leak in the United States, and the only way the leak would have it is, if you're not aware of it, they would salt, chaff and winnow, the content of what was being handed to them with certain keywords that if they saw it repeated anywhere, they knew that that person was leaking information. The story that was, released by those 2 journalists had been filtered a little bit so that it didn't do that very well. So what happened is they decided to tap their phones and figure out who they were talking to, and nothing came of it because they're journalists and maybe they did their job right. Now, this was only mentioned as a single reference in a longer document called the Family Jewels document that documented things from 1973 back to 1959 involving these kind of dirty tricks activities. Now, it's worse than that, obviously. It's just governments doing government shit, and they always do this stuff. Ostensibly, it's only supposed to be done to people who become foreign actors or working on behalf of a foreign intelligence or are harmful to the United States. But that isn't really how things are limited by the CIA, and they will do all sorts of crazy crap. But someone decided to take this and spin this whole thing, just generally, just CIA doing evil shit, as Operation Mockingbird, 30 years of CIA infiltration of mainstream media, all to sell a defamatory book against Katharine Graham and the Washington Post. As long as it has plausible deniability of being not a hit piece, I guess that's fine. Except Deborah Davis's publisher wouldn't publish it because when they got the final draft of it, it was filled with things like completely false statements. and statements that were designed to destroy people's reputation. This was going to be a lawsuit potential. So to not publish the book, they basically paid her a bunch of money and settled out of court, and she walked away. And the book is available on Amazon if you want to get it. But the point is, this was only valid about Deborah Davis's assertions, claims, from 1973 backwards. And this was done in like 1979. And again, she gave it the name Operation Mockingbird, which never existed. It's not a question. So somebody posted, well, what about Operation Mockingbird? It'll explain all this crap you're talking about, which it had nothing to do with the video, really. So I did a video on Operation Mockingbird being bullshit. And the person responded, well, I knew what Operation Mockingbird was. I was talking about it, and they basically just repeated back what I already figured out, that Operation Mockingbird is used for two purposes. One, conspiracy theorists that lie about shit, and two, people just using that as the name about everything the CIA ever does that involves anything involving mainstream media. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. If they do anything propagandistic towards the mainstream media, they'll just call it Operation Mockingbird and be done with it. I would call it Operation Parrot Speak, personally. That would be much more obvious what I'm talking about. But the point is, the individual asked me about this did not leave any ability for me to believe this person knew what they were talking about. Number one. Number two, the person was told overtly in my video, Operation Mockingbird didn't exist. It's a made-up story used to defame, specifically Katharine Graham and the Washington Post. That's a review of the whole thing. When the person heard this, they then made some assertions that I am very sure they're not really telling me the truth about. Now, one of the things, again, that you run into, and I'm going to quote something, show someone how to be rich and they'll love you. Show them how to save their soul and they might hate you. Show them how they were deceived in any of the above and they'll try to kill you. Or they'll try to convince you that you're wrong. When I point out that conspiracy theories on the internet should be assumed to be a lie, first fucking thing, and that this is an example of it. This did not go well with the person who originally brought this up when they were just asking questions, because they say, I asked you, do you think it does not exist? Why did you do a double negative? Why is this indicative of your issues? Do I believe that Project Mockingbird exists? No. And it isn't believe or think. I can prove it doesn't exist because the only reference from it came from a person who was basically putting out a book that they were going to get sued for doing because they were just basically attacking random people and lying about them. Sometimes lying about people while not trying to ruin their reputation, just getting shit wrong. Really poor journalism. That's why it's a book, more of a novel. I don't see the point of you doing the previous video where I explain what Operation Mockingbird is and that it's not real. And why are you doing the other video where I point out that your reaction to me looking up facts and pointing out that what you brought up wasn't real, your reaction to it was to not address the subject matter? Like I already said, Operation Mockingbird may or may not be an official thing. Well, it isn't an official thing. It's a lie told by somebody, maybe because they got told no when they wanted to get a job at the Washington Post. I don't know. Deborah Davis, if you're not aware of it, has only been interviewed once, apparently, that I can find. And there's only one picture of her, and I'm not even sure it's her. That's the one attributed to her. And it's in the thumbnail for one of my videos. The only reason I bothered to comment to your channel is because you have so few viewers and I'm trying to help with the algorithm. No, you came by making an assertion about a video saying it's part of Project Mockingbird, Operation Mockingbird, when there is no such thing. And when I pointed that out, it ruffled your feathers, or rustled your jimmies, or snapped your spandex. I don't know what the hell happened. The few people that find your vids are either already aware of something or have no idea what you're talking about. The video I posted where I explain what Operation Mockingbird is and that it's a lie is getting traction in other countries, and YouTube doesn't apply those as views because they're embeds. Because they're mad at some country or some website? Yes. But people are seeing it. So, thank you. Now I have another video that'll end up like me explaining to people that the Philippines is not Ophir, and I'll get a bunch of death threats. I delete the death threats most of the time. So, the person says, some are already aware of the fact the world has controllers. Okay, now we're being vague and we're now over in the conspiracy theory pile. And again, you're making assertions. I thought a generic reference to Operation Mockingbird, it's not generic, it's a conspiracy theory thing and it's a lie. It was never true. It's something somebody made up for literary purposes at best and at worst to lie. It would help people make the first step in understanding that a problem exists from someone's assertion that was never true, using the name Operation Mockingbird, which doesn't go anywhere except back to that person. Everybody brings up Operation Mockingbird, refuses to bring up that it's Deborah Davis who invented it out of her butt. It doesn't exist. The first step of understanding a problem exists, that there are controllers in the world. You notice the propaganda about the Ukraine on a regular, the regular gender BS, gun control? None dare call it a conspiracy. It's a name from, it's a wording from something. Where does this programming come from? After all, most people have been brainwashed by the system of programming, TV and Hollywood. Yes, I'm paraphrasing this person, but I'm making it a little less hard to read. So your claim at this point is that it's the TV, Hollywood, and journalism and mainstream media that are brainwashing you instead of the fucking internet. Holy dog shit. Let's move on. I don't care if you want to call it Operation Mockingbird. You put it as Op Mock. My name is Mock, and thanks a lot. If you know the movie, click below. Tell me all about it. It's not Op Mock. It's a fake story by Deborah Davis, Operation Mockingbird. It's a literary device in the book because she was trying to defame a bunch of people and she was doing it as a revenge bit. We don't know. You'd have to read the book. I should provide a link to Amazon and see if we can get some kickbacks out of this. I mean, shit. Why not? I don't care if you want to call it that. The point is, you wanted to call it that, and the point is, I pointed out that it's not real. This is like you mentioning Bigfoot as being a subspecies of humans when really it's Neanderthals with antennas. So let's move on. We are so divided and shouldn't worry so much about the finest details. You misspelled that, by the way. A lot of things you misspelled. Really, the finest details. You mean the entire point you made was a lie you repeated or took hook, line, and sinker? And so many people hear one thing they do not like, then ignore it because it's a Christian or commie antichrist messenger giving it to them. You didn't like a liberal, but you didn't put in liberal? Is this a meaning that you can throw this out with a bathwater like you're mentioning here? I think the best way to tackle this is to pound the public with simple, provable facts. I did. I pointed out the thing you brought up isn't a thing because it's a lie told in like 1979 that people bring up and avoid bringing up where they get their information from because if you checked on it, you find out it was bullshit. You don't like that? You didn't mean for this video to be viral in some country that YouTube won't let me have page views from. You are a slave because you do not understand where the money comes from. This person's using this as an example, not saying it necessarily. Or are too many secrets. Why are they hiding so much for so long? Okay, this is getting vague. And again, all I did was look up what you said and found out it was nothing. It has no basis. And you saying, oh, this is part of Operation Mockingbird that doesn't exist about some video that it really doesn't relate to. 911 Truth, JFK Truth, The New World Order, Agenda 21, The Great Reset, National Security, all facts they advertise themselves. 911 Truthers lie about everything. JFK Truthers, always lie. People who bring up New World Order always lie about it. Agenda 21 is literally people making up shit about that. The Great Reset, again, another lie. National Security exists, okay. Show a man how to be rich and he will love you. Show him how to save his soul and he might hate you. But show him he was deceived in any of the above and he will try to kill you. Thank you for the idea of me looking up Operation Mockingbird. Again, I did it years ago. But I did it again. And putting up a video again pointing out that Deborah Davis made a lie and people keep repeating it. And people who view the video find out that they shouldn't use Operation Mockingbird and they can't use Project Mockingbird because that's not it. So they just have to say the CIA being the CIA. Yeah, spies do that shit. But I don't excuse it. But Calling it Operation Mockingbird isn't even a good thumbnail sketch of it. It's a way of diverting people from the facts they can look up. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that, and you failed.